After the publication of the previous original White Gloves of the Morgan Consortium, analysis of Goldman Sachs and the equity behind it, the article was specially taken care of by the platform that day, so this article has a special paid reading mode for readers. Looking back at the previous article, it was mentioned that John Bogle, the godfather of index funds, was favored by Walter Morgan of the Morgan Stanley family. In 1929, Walter Morgan founded the Wellington Fund. In 1974, John Bogle formed the Vanguard Group, also known as the Vanguard Group, which was responsible for the administrative functions of the Wellington Fund, one of the largest asset management companies. The protagonist of this article is Goldman Sachs, and its top three shareholders are Vanguard Group, BlackRock, and State Street Group. In addition, the largest shareholder of BlackRock and State Street Group is Pilot Group. It can be inferred from this that the Goldman Sachs is behind the Pilot Group, which is controlled by the Morgan family. The Morgan family is not Jewish. In view of the fact that the founder of Goldman Sachs is the German Jewish Marcus Goldman, and most of the company's senior executives are Jews, we can infer that Goldman Sachs initially worked for the Morgan Consortium. Goldman Sachs, from a part-time job to a boss. Let's not diverge here, we will focus on Goldman Sachs' capital layout and hunting in China. Text. Sachs Group has long regarded China as an important market, and since the early 1990s, China has been regarded as a key region for global business development. Acted as consultant and lead underwriter in several large-scale global debt offering transactions in China. In 1984, the Asia-Pacific regional headquarters was established in Hong Kong, and representative offices were opened in Beijing and Shanghai in 1994, officially entering the Chinese mainland market. Goldman Sachs experienced the initial establishment of China's capital market in the 1990s, actively preparing for the establishment of international securities firms, and helping companies such as China Mobile, PetroChina, Bank of China, Hong Kong, Bank of Communications, and Industrial and Commercial Bank of China to go overseas. Bad reputation. Many Chinese companies have failed in derivatives, and it just so happens that Goldman Sachs is deeply involved in it. 1. Encircle and suppress Chinese companies in the derivatives market. In 2004, Goldman Sachs's Zhurun company recommended put oil options to CAO Chen Julin. After the first loss of $5.8 million, Chen Julin asked to liquidate the position, but Goldman Sachs suggested moving the plate. In the end, CAO's loss was magnified by more than 500 million yuan, and the company went bankrupt, forced to liquidate. After 2008, CITIC Pacific lost 14.7 billion Hong Kong dollars due to exchange rate derivatives transactions. China Eastern Airlines and China Airlines lost 6.8 billion yuan and 6.2 billion yuan respectively due to oil derivatives transactions, and China Costco lost 5 billion yuan due to shipping cost derivatives hedging transactions, etc. Wait. At the end of 2018, United Petrochemical, a subsidiary of Sinopec, suffered huge losses in crude oil hedging transactions, and the market value of Sinopec fell by 46 billion yuan that day. Figure 1. Goldman Sachs list of financial fraud against Chinese companies. 2. Enter the Chinese financial market. In 2003, SARS broke out suddenly. Suddenly, the good situation brought about by joining the WTO 2 years ago came to an abrupt end, and a large number of foreign businessmen withdrew one after another. Just as the market was panicking, Goldman Sachs chairman John Paulson, dubbed the King of Power on Wall Street, visited China at the invitation of the then mayor of Beijing. As a bigwig in the global economic circles, Paulson even made a positive judgment on the Chinese economy, breaking the pessimistic attitude of the Western economic circles towards China's development after SARS. Before Paulson's retrograde visit to China, Goldman Sachs internally launched a plan codenamed Hank Plan, preparing to make Goldman Sachs the first foreign investment bank to open a securities company in China. Sen's nickname. Just a few months after Paulson left Beijing, a Beijing report was submitted to the China Securities Regulatory Commission, requesting approval of the newly established Beijing Gaohua Securities Co., Limited and Goldman Sachs Group to establish a joint venture securities company, Goldman Sachs Gaohua Securities Co., Ltd. As shown in Figure 2 below, the four major shareholders of Beijing Gaohua Securities Co., Limited are Legend Holdings Co., Limited, Beijing Deshang Venture Capital Co., Limited, Beijing Jiaoang Venture Capital Co., Limited, Beijing Haofen Venture Capital Co., Limited, each holding 25% of the shares. Figure 2. Beijing Gaohua Securities Co., Ltd. Among the four major shareholders of Beijing Gaohua Securities, except for Legend Holdings, the founders of the other three major companies are all Fangfenglei. The loan contract stated that once the policy allows, Goldman Sachs can immediately acquire Fangfenglei's controlling stake in Gaohua Securities. In December 2004, Goldman Sachs Gaohua Securities Co., Limited, a securities company located in Beijing, was established, of which Goldman Sachs holds 33% of the shares and Beijing Gaohua Securities holds 67%. According to the shareholding structure, Goldman Sachs actually holds 83.25% of the shares. As of November 2022, check the ownership structure of Goldman Sachs Gaohua Securities Co., Limited, and Goldman Sachs shareholding ratio has reached 100%, as shown in Figure 3 below. Figure 3 Goldman Sachs Gaohua Securities Co., Limited equity penetration. Since Goldman Sachs became the first foreign investment bank to open a securities company in China, Goldman Sachs has officially opened its hunt in the Chinese capital market. In the PE investment, private equity investment, Western Mining is the first debut, followed by the pharmaceutical company Hafuyui, the wine company Kaozijiao, the electricity company Suntec, bankrupt, and the meat company Shuanghui. Develop. The tactics are naturally low price layout rightward arrow, high price reduction rightward arrow, resolute departure. However, the controlling shareholder behind the current largest shareholder of Shuanghui Development is still Goldman Sachs Group. Figure 4 Shuanghui Development shareholder structure, as of September 2022. As shown in Figure 4 above, the largest shareholder of Shuanghui Development is Rotexco, Limited. Rotexco, Limited is a project company newly registered in Hong Kong according to international practice for participating in the equity transfer project of Shuanghui Group. Goldman Sachs Strategic Investment, Asia, Co., Limited, Goldman Sachs 100% holding, holds 51% of Rotex shares, and CDH China Co., Limited holds 49% of its shares. Figure 5 Rotexco, Limited Company Introduction. Regarding CDH investment, we introduced it in Deep Digging, Analysis of Sinovac's Equity Structure and Perspective on the Beneficiaries Behind Sinovac Vaccine, 202,106. CDH investment was founded by 6 founders including Lu Shangzi and Jiao Zhen. Founded jointly with the Singapore Government Direct Investment Co., Limited, China Investment Guarantee Co., Limited and Zurich Insurance Capital Group. 3 other investment layout. We use Goldman Sachs China, Goldman Sachs Group Limited, Goldman Sachs Broad Street Imperial, the Goldman Sachs Group Incorporated, Goldman Sachs Holdings, Mauritius, Limited, Gaoshen, HK, International Co., Limited and other key information. Assist Tianyancha to see other layouts of Goldman Sachs in China. 1. Goldman Sachs China, as shown in Figure 6.1 below, has 3 main persons in charge, of which Cai Jiakang is also the co-director of the LGBT employee network in Goldman Sachs Asia. Zhu Hansong is the CEO of Goldman Sachs Gaohua Securities Co., Limited, Fan Xiang is the chairman of Goldman Sachs Gaohua Securities Co., Limited and the legal representative of Goldman Sachs RMB Fund. From the perspective of investment dynamics, there are 14 project brands, among which Didi Chuxing and its affiliated company Beijing Xiaja Technology Co., Limited are the most prominent. Participate in the round of debt investment. The investment time is 2021-04-10. The content, the IPO process is accelerating. Didi is considering listing in the summer and has submitted an application in secret. Figure 6.1 Goldman Sachs China Venture Capital Dynamics. Figure 6.2 Goldman Sachs China Venture Capital Dynamics. Judging from the above content, looking back at Didi's rapid and low-key US stock listing in 2021, it really confirmed the word secret. On June 11, 2021, Didi Chuxing submitted its IPO prospectus. On June 29, Didi set the IPO issue price at $14. On June 30, Didi was listed on the New York Stock Exchange with the stock code Didi. On the evening of July 2, the Network Security Review Office stated that it would conduct a network security review of Didi Chuxing. On December 3 of the same year, Didi started delisting on the New York Stock Exchange less than half a year after its listing. In this regard, the author also wrote 2 articles about Didi last year. Infiltration, Didi Chuxing was under cybersecurity scrutiny, massive strategic data may leak secrets to the United States, Didi was investigated to blow the anti-rape anti-espionage general horn, global chaos has arrived, interested readers can review it again. 2. Goldman Sachs Group Co., Limited, as shown in figure 7 below, except for the 100% holding of Goldman Sachs Gaohua Securities Co., Limited. Shares 0.001%. Figure 7 Goldman Sachs Group Co., Limited shareholding penetration chart. 3. Goldman Sachs Broad Street Bohua, namely Beijing Goldman Sachs Broad Street Bohua Equity Investment Management Co., Limited, registered on August 15, 2011, with a registered capital of $8 million, is the Beijing state-owned capital operation and management center, and Goldman Sachs Group established a management company, supervisor and executive, Lori Elizabeth Schmidt, a very special name, to manage Broad Street Imperial China RMB Fund. Goldman Sachs Broad Street Imperial currently manages a RMB Fund, Beijing Broad Street Imperial 2011 Investment Center, Limited Partnership, and 2 USD funds, Beijing Broad Street Imperial 2012 Investment Center, Limited Partnership, and Beijing Quanzhou Bohua 2012 Yuinfu Investment Center, Limited Partnership. Note, the 2 funds were cancelled on May 8, 2019. As shown in figure 8 below, Beijing Quanzhou Bohua 2011 Investment Center, Limited Partnership, that is, Goldman Sachs RMB Fund, has a target size of RMB 5 billion and focuses on mergers and acquisitions, restructuring and outbound investment of Chinese state-owned enterprises. Goldman Sachs partner in this fund is the State-Owned Capital Operation and Management Center under Beijing Municipal F. Beijing State-Owned Capital Operation and Management Center and Beijing Equity Investment Development Fund will jointly contribute, with a total amount of about 1 billion yuan. Figure 8 Introduction to Beijing Quanzhou Bohua 2011 Investment Center, Limited Partnership. As shown in figure 9 below, the equity penetration of Beijing Quanzhou Bohua 2011 Investment Center, Limited Partnership, Beijing State-Owned Capital Operation and Management Co., Limited holds 31.08% of the equity, Beijing Quanzhou Bohua Investment Management Center, Limited Partnership, holds 2.79% of the shares. Figure 9 Equity penetration of Beijing Quanzhou Bohua 2011 Investment Center, Limited Partnership. 4. The Goldman Sachs Group, Inc., as shown in figure 10 below, holds 13.62% of the shares in Taikang Insurance Group Co., Limited. Figure 10 The Goldman Sachs Group Incorporated Equity penetration. 5. Goldman Sachs Holdings, Mauritius, Limited, as shown in figure 11 below, holds 100% of Beijing Goldman Sachs Consulting Co., Limited. Figure 11 Goldman Sachs Holdings, Mauritius, Limited equity penetration. 6. Gaoshen, HK, International Co., Limited, as shown in figure 12 below, which holds 100% of Shanghai Jinbeijin Business Consulting Co., Limited Rightward Arrow Shanghai Gaoshang Culture Development Co., Limited Rightward Arrow Shanghai Goldman Sachs Investment Co., Ltd. Figure 12 Gaoshen, HK, International Co., Limited equity penetration. To sum up, Goldman Sachs capital layout in China is still very deep. This article is limited to the length of the article and is for reader's reference only. There are definitely deficiencies in the article. Please make additions and corrections. If you think the article is good, please forward and share more. Thank you.